Good morning, everybody. This is Carol, and this is my week 4 initial post. We were to talk about audio files this week, and the question is the audio file better than the traditional text file? Why or why not? That was number one. I wouldn't say that it's better than, but I do think it's a necessary part of a course, or certainly something that I think I would want to incorporate. I had one Baker professor that did it, and she did it as an experiment, and I'll talk about that more later, but I really liked it. And I think that application has a lot to do with why you would use an audio file. Um, our articles this week talked a lot about feedback, and I think it's the type of feedback that determines whether or not you would use an audio file. One of the best things about an audio file, I think, that was mentioned in the articles was very similar to what we said about video files, that it gives you that voice touch, that human connection. It gives you the nuance. It can give you better explanation of a concept and higher learning. I think those are great things for the teacher to get across to a student, and gives that sort of caring connection, building community. And those are all things that I think we agreed that we would like to be able to have with our students, but also we've enjoyed as students with our professors. So I think that that undoubtedly is a good reason to use an audio file. And so for that reason, I think I would use it. But one of the things that I noticed in the academic article that was entitled Audio Feedback versus Written Feedback, Instructors and Students' Perspectives, was that they said that the audio file could be adjective rich. And that is one thing that I think that we skimp on when we do text writing or written feedback on something. When you have just a little margin on a paper, you don't write adjectives as much, or you might write one word like excellent or great or something, but you can't expound because you don't want to take the time, you don't have the space, whereas with an audio file, you can add those things. And I think that that personal touch means a lot to a student to hear those things. So from that standpoint, I think that's a great way to use an audio file. I also think that, as was pointed out in that Duke study that was in the article called Speaking to Students with Audio Feedback in an Online Course, you can achieve some of that higher level thinking by encouraging students to think of concepts more and pushing them to some higher level thinking, that it's not just, yes, you got this right, or no, here's your mistake, correct your mistake. You're pushing them to learn and to really understand a concept better, because you can give a little bit more expounded upon feedback and so further explanation. So I think those are all the positive reasons. On the other hand, I do think, though, when I read the academic article, that was very germane to my particular discipline, which would be composition. And I think that it looked as though the general types of comments that we can make, or the global comments of feedback on content and organization, those would be great ways to use audio feedback. But when it comes down to visual sorts of feedback, like on grammar and sentence structure, I don't think that that can be accomplished in an audio file nearly as well. So in that regard, I think that then you would have to have two types of feedback, which when we talk about, is that more work for the teacher? I would say yes, then that would be more work for the teacher. The second question was, is it practical to just listen to an audio file? And I think if you're not a visual learner, that may work for you, but I'm a visual learner, so I would listen to it once, say, but then I would have to listen to it and take notes on it like Jane did in the study. So to me, it would not be practical to just have an audio file lecture, for instance. I also think that when it comes to teacher work, again, which is something to consider, if you're just giving feedback on a final paper, like you want to say, I liked this about your paper, and here's your grade, you have your grade, and this is what I liked, and this is what I didn't like, or whatever, I think it provides a lot of great feedback. But for revision work, I think that that is a different type of feedback, and in that regard, I think it does create double work for the teacher. I do think that that idea of scripting is also an extra step that creates more work. But I want to say that the one Baker professor that did it in our final paper that we did, it It was just great to hear. She sort of did it as an experiment, said, oh, this is available in Moodle. I'm going to try this. And I didn't expect any more than just general comments, and it was great. And I sort of got an understanding. She could say, I liked this point because, and she didn't have to write it all out. And it was very personal. So I would say, all in all, I would use an audio file, even if it is maybe just a little bit extra work. So I'll be anxious to hear what you all have to say as well.